beautiful star beam. I just got off an Akashic record reading with a client, and I wanted to talk about some of the key highlights in case it helps you on your journey as well. So originally she was coming because she wanted to learn about her gifts and her purpose and if she had any blocks in her way that she needed to be working on. And so one of the things before I got on the session with her is I was channeling her higher self and asking her like, hey, is there anything you want her to know during the session? And let me tell y'all, okay, so there's this place called the Cosmic Wash. Well, it's actually multiple places, and there's different portals of accesses. And so that can be the dragon realm, the unicorn realm, the mermaid realm, the rainbow dimension, lots of different cosmic wash portals. But there's one in the Mermaid Lagoon, and I've actually taken several of my clients through the Akasha field to that place. And what it looks like, it's almost like the Lumerian crystal caves, but it's a little bit different. So the cave has all these crystals lining the walls, and then in the middle it has a lagoon, and there's all these mermaids there that hang out. Okay, and when souls are brought there, they do this very high vibrational singing, and it bounces off of the crystal caves and back into the water, and it helps clear any heavy dense energy out of the person's field. And it works differently in the different portals depending on the beings that are there, like the dragons and the unicorns and the fairies and what have you. But here I told her, I was like, you are actually one of the mermaids in a different incarnation. And I said, that is so exciting. It's like me meeting a celebrity right now because I have met the mermaids before, but I had never met a client that was an actual mermaid from there. And I was like, this is so exciting. So we talked about that gift and how she can better utilize that and tap into it. I wanted to mention that because you can actually request to go there. You can actually ask your higher self to take you to one of these places, and it's very healing. It's like a soul spa. I told her that was a gift from a different incarnation, but one of her main modalities in this one was being an inner child healer. And I was like, oh, that's so exciting because I love working with people's inner children. So we talked about how she can develop that as well. And so I was saying that anytime that you are filling your magic cup up with joy and whimsy and creativity and fun and play and laughter, I said it takes a very skilled person to be an energy healer for children, for inner children, because you have to create such safety and warmth and compassion to pull them forward with people so that they feel safe with you and that they can tell you about the things that happened in their life and sometimes dig through traumatic things. I said that that's a beautiful gift to have. And so we talked about that, and she had asked me about tapping into her Akashic records, and she felt kind of blocked before. And I said that happens sometimes with people who are logical and analytical based, because it's almost like you're going to this realm and dimension and you're just hanging out and you're like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do now? And you're like waiting for things. But logical and analytical people really like having more pointed perception. And so when I first started getting into my own records, I was hitting the same blocks. I'm like, okay, well, I'm in here. What now? So I would actually start asking questions. How, what, and why questions are the best about different things that are going on in your life in this incarnation, or maybe different ones, or karmic lessons, or different relationships in your life. How, what, and why. And then when you start learning how to channel in the Akasha field and channel your higher selves from this incarnation or different ones, you can hear the information more clearly, and then you can kind of just walk around in there and see what you see and hear what you hear. But it's better to have pointed direction when you first start doing that type of work. And then we talked about working with her causal chakra. So your causal chakra sits a little further up above your crown chakra. That's your translator chakra. You work with that one and you can hear your guides and your higher self more clearly. You can also hear your inner children more clearly. If you want to channel light language, that's where you channel it through. It's connected to the moon and a lot of our divine feminine energy, but that's a great one to work with if you want to up level your psychic abilities. And then one of the big things that we talked about is that sometimes we don't need to be doing more shadow work. Like there's time and places for that, but if you are a highly conscious, aware being that is analyzing yourself 24/7, sometimes we're picking at things that don't need to be picked at. And oftentimes when I'm doing inner child healing in people's Akasha fields, I'm not going in to dig through the trauma with the inner child. What I'm doing is explaining to them that they're not living in those time and spaces anymore, because sometimes they're caught in these energetic timestamps and think that the trauma is happening over and over. We remove them, and I'm like, hey, magic is fun. Magic is safe. It's supposed to be light-hearted and joyful. And so we're trying to move you into a timeline where you can really shine your light and thrive in that type of energy. But we don't need to be picking at more things, because there's people out there in the world that aren't doing the self-awareness thing. That's not you, babe. Okay? You are out here diligently every single day saying, how can I, quote unquote, be my best self? Okay? So sometimes we need to put that shadow work stuff down, because we need to ask ourselves, am I doing this because it's rooted in fear and anxiety and not enoughness or low self-confidence? Because if you're doing that, it's actually just regurgitating generational trauma within self. What we need to do sometimes is be the higher self to our inner children and say, hey, I don't need you to prove anything to me. We are going to be on a magical timeline, or we are on a magical timeline, whether we decide to do that stuff or not, even though we do it all the time. What we're going to do instead is say, we love ourselves through and through, no matter what, and we're going to go have fun and enjoy life. That is our shadow work right now. Okay? We need to take that responsibility of them having to prove their worth to you, just like maybe your parents or guardians. That's why you have that core wound in the first place. We can't keep regurgitating the same trauma wound with our inner children. And so sometimes you got to be the one to be like, stop with the self-awareness. Let's go look at squirrels outside. Okay, or go jump in some puddles or watch a magical movie. The last thing that we'll talk about is she was having some issues with her clairaudience abilities, and I was explaining that sometimes it's not you really trying to learn more information or learn a skill. It's more so you imbuing yourself in the energy field of the thing that you want to activate within self. And so like for me with light language, so I did not take a light language class. What I did was I watched hundreds of light language videos and listened to people talk about light language, and then it activated and opened my channels. And that's because you are enveloping yourself in that energy, and it unlocks something within you. And I was also explaining to her like doing children's meditations. Like if we are listening to unicorn, dragon, whales and dolphins, going to a pirate adventure, whatever that is, you are learning how to envelop yourself in different frequencies. And after you feel those so many times, you'll be able to blip into that dimensional space, whether it's for you, for your own personal journey, or with your clients. Like let's listen to 6 or 7 dragon meditations and with the intention of being able to do that within the Akashic field with people's inner children. And now you can access the dragon dimension because you know what it feels like. Overall, it was a wonderful session. And so I wanted to share that because these are all great things for everybody to hear. And so if you have questions, I would love to hear them in the comments, or if you have any thoughts that you would like to share as well.